Today we're talking about the writers that made me want to be a writer. Welcome back to Mostly Vanity. Welcome back to Mostly Vanity. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Now, my name is Kennedy, and I'm a writer. And this show is about whatever I want it to be about. That's why it's called Mostly Vanity, because it's mostly vanity. I just get to talk about some of the things I love. And one of the things I really love, and I'm centering a lot of this channel around, this is just to catch anybody up who hasn't been here. If you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you so much for following me along. But anyway, this show is just my excuse to talk about the things I love. And again, I'm an aspiring writer. I'm trying to write my first novel right now. I'm tracking my weekly writing syncs. Just recorded one. Go check it out. And I'm doing really well in writing so far, and I'm having a blast. I'm really enjoying it. I'm feeling good, and I just want to kind of talk a little bit about what makes me even want to do this. I talked a little bit about my experiences writing music and kind of what led me from music to also writing novels. Which again, I still make music, but not as seriously as I did before. It's more just an enjoyment and something I love rather than my sole means of expression. So I talked a little bit about that in some of my earlier episodes, but I really want to talk specifically about the people who inspired me to write novels. I read a lot as a kid. I was a big reader, but I was a big rereader. And I read a lot of books, and I was really bad about rereading. And, coming back to reading after college was something, again, I've talked about in previous episodes, has helped me find even more authors. It's, really helped me to expand and not just reread the same, couple book series that I know I like. I'm really bad about that in general. I replay the same video games. I reread the same books. I've always been like that, and I'm trying to expand myself a little bit more because it was getting a little bit much, especially on the reading side. So again, the authors that made me want to be an author are a mix of the people who I read as a kid, the people I've seen now, and I'll talk a little bit about like what about them specifically inspired me. And I have three specific people. There's been a lot of great authors out there that I've read, but these are the three I would say, at least as of now, that really sparked an interest in storytelling or writing or prose or whatever. So the first of which is what I know a lot of people read as a kid is Rick Riordan, the Percy Jackson series, the King Chronicles, all of those. I ate those up as a kid. And I think those books are really what made me fall in love with fantasy and mythology and that sort of thing. I was very drawn to it. And I tried some other series in that vein. But Rick Riordan really, I loved those stories and really taught me how to be attached to a character, and all the characters in there I really enjoyed for different reasons, and it was a world I could escape into, and I really loved it. I still do. Still great series. If you have kids, it's really great. So again, Rick Riordan, big influence on me as a kid, especially. I read a lot of people, but he was definitely the most influential, I think, to my writing and really sparking that interest in fantasy. The second author is someone who I've really just grown more and more appreciative of over time and even now, which is John Green. Now, John Green, I've not read all of his books, I haven't read all of Rick Riordan's books either. But when I was a teenager, kind of becoming an adult, I read Paper Towns, and I read, of course, The Fault in Our Stars. And man, the thing I love about John Green is the way that he can word things in a way that only he can word them. I think that's what he really gave me in terms of inspiration, of like a love for words, a love for being able to express something, an emotion, a feeling, a thought in a very specific way, and in a way that is unique to you and how you think. It's both an expression of emotions and thought, but also of an expression of the person expressing the thought, and I'm just so inspired by that. I'm also, one of the books I picked up after I got back into reading of his was The Anthropocene Reviewed. And if you have not read The Anthropocene Reviewed, I highly recommend it. I really love the audiobook version, and it has some extra chapters that aren't in the paperback. It's also narrated by John Green, and he would probably find this creepy, but I find John Green's voice so soothing. It's so enjoyable to listen to him read his words. I just find him a fascinating human being, and I love him and Hank, and I listen to a lot of his podcasts here, Dear Hank and John, the sleep podcast for the elderly, or whatever they say. They're such silly human beings, but I love it, and I watched Crash Course growing up, and but yeah, I think that's what really I got from him the most, is that it's not just what you tell, but how you tell it, and that, to me, even though like there's a lot of other people who have inspired me, that's just always stuck out to me in a way. And I think the person, which is my third choice of authors who have inspired me to write, is kind of the, I guess, current granddaddy of fantasy and epic fantasy. You guys probably know what it is Brandon Sanderson. He's one of the reasons why I read fantasy today, and I really am grateful for that. I first fell in love with his book Warbreaker, then went to the first Mistborn book, and then to the first Stormlight book, and it was awesome to me how focused he was on story, telling the story, getting to the twist. Like, it wasn't just about lyrical prose. Again, a lot of people say his prose is like very vanilla or whatever, which, I mean, it's not super flowery, but I would not say it's vanilla, He's got some classic lines in his stories that are not using intricate words, but are worded very specifically, like I talked about with John Green. Something I really appreciate. And another thing with Brandon Sanderson is like his YouTube lectures. I watched him a lot on YouTube before I even started rereading, because I found him interesting. And I'm always interested in people talking about their craft. I'm always drawn to that. People who are passionate about things like that. And it's one of the reasons why I got back into reading, like I said. And his YouTube lectures that he does at BYU are phenomenal. They're really great. I don't know how much I've actively used in my writing, because I think I'm not as focused on like the twist, I think it is an important aspect, but that's not like he gets so excited over the twists, and they're great in his books, don't get me wrong, but like that's not really what excites me as the writer. It's more to tell the story. So, but learning a lot of terminology, learning a lot about the industry, was really interesting. And again, he's very knowledgeable, and I think has done a lot for authors in the modern era. I think if we had more people like him in the music industry wouldn't be as somewhat undesirable as a lot of people have it now. That's the great thing about book spaces is there really is like a small town community feel to it that I don't think a lot of other like big industries have, um, and mainly because it is a smaller industry relatively nowadays. But I think it's even more so important. But yeah, I'm so inspired by so many authors, but these are just a couple of them. And if you haven't read any of theirs, I highly recommend it. The Rick Riordan books are great. The Kane Chronicles are great by Rick Riordan. If you haven't read those are underrated. That's like Egyptian mythology. It's pretty sweet. Again, Brandon Sanderson's amazing Warbreaker, I think, is one of my favorite books of him that I've read so far. If you really love epic fantasy, Stormlight. Again, I'm only a couple books into Stormlight, but man, it hits. And I'm currently reading through Mistborn, the original trilogy. I'm on Hero of Ages right now, and I do read kind of slow, so FYI. But I'd like to do kind of a review of the Mistborn series eventually on one of these shows once I finish it. So look for that in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really am appreciative of you taking the time to listen to me jibber jabber and talk about the things that I'm passionate about. So I think I'm done. I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Go check out my weekly writing syncs. Check out my social medias. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, and follow me along in this journey of learning how to be a writer, about talking about whatever I feel like talking about in a particular day. And I hope you've been entertained and that you've enjoyed yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.